Welcome to Nanaimo Yacht Charters. We're sitting on board the 3288 Bayliner, which is a very popular boat here in our fleet. I'm going to go through by starting the engine. So we'll go over to the engine start panel and get it running for you. Two round keys, and they're on the key chain given to you, so you just twist and then go. There you are, and then we're going. And here we have the throttle. You let it warm up at about 1000 RPM. You just let it slowly warm up until it's idling nice and smoothly. And you will find the engines will smoke a little bit when they're cold, which is normal for the Hino. But once it's warmed up, that's that good there. We usually run the engines at about 1800 RPM as a maximum speed, and 8 knots is the desired speed, between 8 and 10 anyway. And you'll see all the gauges belonging to the port engine are here, and to the starboard engine there. We'll just go through. You have a temperature gauge, which should run when you're at cruising temperature at about 150, between 150 and the next line, which is 180. Your fuel gauge is there, you can see on both, and then you have a voltmeter, which would indicate that the battery voltage is being charged up, and you've got an oil pressure. And of course your rev counter, and as I say, 1800 is desirable. Okay, and here we have the engine stop buttons. You just hit that, and then switch off before the buzzers attack you. There we are. So now we're going to look at these instruments and these gauges underneath here. There you have the condition of all the batteries. That's off, and then you have the engine battery, which is showing 13, and the start battery, and of course the generator battery. So all batteries are in good shape. This is your water tank gauge, and you can see we need some water, but you just press that. There's only one tank, and you press that and it'll indicate the level. Now if you're going to work the windlass, you need to switch that on and then start the engine, which we'll go and do now, and then we'll walk up front and show you where you operate the windlass from. Right, with the engine running, both the engines have got to be running to operate this. It's quite straightforward. You have a clutch here, which needs to be tightened before you operate it. That's nice and tight, and then you can just press down on that, and that pulls it up, and you release that to let it down. Very, very simple. So, once it's stowed in position, and there it is, all stowed and ready to go. Okay. Right, to switch on the VHF radio, you just press the power button and on it comes. And if you want to go to the weather channels, you just hit the WX, and there you are. That's you, and you have 10 dedicated weather channels. And you want to go back to regular channels, you just hit the 16 button there, and now you're back to your regular channels. And to switch off, you come back here and just to press the power button and off it. To switch on the plotter, you just press the power button here, and you hold that down, and then you go on to, there we are, and it will say accept, so you must accept. Just wait a little bit after accepting. And up will come the first screen, and there you are. And you can, it is a touch screen, so you can just use your fingers to bring it out, and there you are, exactly where we are on the dock. So very straightforward little unit. And then to just switch it off, you just press that and hold it down for about 3 seconds, and off it goes. Right, and this is your power panel, and here's your source selector. If you are on shore, which is plugged into shore power, you switch the arrow to there. If you are on ship power, which is when you've left and you put the shore power cable away, you switch on to ship. But we're on shore now, and you can see we have voltage on shore. Now you have 2 lines, and under each line, this is what you have operating on those lines. So you have the forward receptacles. This is the breaker, the main breaker for this line, line 1, and that's the breaker for line 2. Now, essentially, you can select line 1 or line 2 with this switch. You can switch across to there. So if you want to use anything up here, that's line 1. You select line 1 and make sure this is on, which is your main breaker. And you can have the forward receptacle, meaning the plug points on. The range, that's your oven. You can switch that on. And the refrigerator, you switch that on there too. And of course, don't ever forget the battery charger, which is important. That should be on whenever you're plugged in. And you have an ice maker and blender back here, back of the boat. And this is your ice maker, and it has a separate switch down there. So you switch that on when the water pressure is switched on, and you'll make a good batch of ice whenever that's on. And this, of course, is your blender. So if you come over to here, you'll see where the okay, and blender, that's on the bottom switch. Now, if you want to use anything on this side, you take your selection and you switch it across to line 2, and then that will give you aft receptacles. It'll allow you to have the water heater on, and of course the microwave down in the galley. And then you've got a heater in the master stateroom and a heater in the stateroom itself, and you have these by just selecting this on. Now, if you plug into both plug sockets on the starboard side with the shore power, you can enjoy power on each one. Right, let's move over to the middle. This is your DC master switch, and basically it just gives you the switch for the blowers, you can hear them, engine room lights, aft bilge, forward bilge, panel lights, the wipers, and of course your navigation lights and the accessories. Every time you switch one of these on, one of these little lights will light up to show you that it's active. Now this here is your generator, your generator panel, which will give you oil pressure, temperature, and the voltmeter of the generator. Now to run the generator, you want to really switch all of these off. So you switch everything off so there's no power being drawn, and you select ship, which is your ship power. So you switch this across to ship, and you'll see now you're ready to go. Now you're going to start the generator, and you start first of all by preheating the genset for at least 10 seconds, especially if it's cold. You want to warm it up, and then you just circle across to the start position, and you hold that until the generator fires up and is running steadily, and I can let that go. Right, so with that ship on, I can then check the voltage on the lines and make sure that whatever we want is on. Now that is on line 2. You can see I've selected line 2, and if I want line 1, I just select line 1, and you'll see you've got voltage on it, but you can't have it on both. You can choose what you want with the genset. Okay, now to stop the generator, you just cycle across to here and hold it on stop until it stops completely. But have a look at this. There's your oil pressure. You've got good oil pressure. Okay, you have your temperature gauge, which should not run more than about 170, and of course you've got good voltage, so it's charging nicely with its own charger. Now remember to stop it. We come across to the generator control button here, and we rotate this into the stop position like that, and we hold it until it stops running altogether, and then we can let that go. Now we want to plug in our shore power because we've tied up alongside, and when we do that, we go from ship back to shore, and now we're back on shore, and then again we can select either line that we wish. And over here we have the range, so you switch it on and make sure that this cover is up and out the way, because if you don't, you can see what happens. You could burn it. So the top burners, you flick this up to the top burners. If you're working up here, you switch it on to top burners, and if you cast your eye across here, the top burner light is on. And this is just a question of depressing it, and you can feel that that's getting nice and hot already. And then you just switch it off in the conventional fashion. Now it's off when it's up at 12 o'clock like that. And of course, if you want to use the oven, you switch down to oven here, and you'll see that the oven light will come on. Okay, and let's switch it on. Right. And the oven gets switched on like that, and you'll see the light comes on for the oven, and this is the oven switch here. So it's quite straightforward. And to switch off, you just rotate it back to the 12 o'clock position, make sure all of them are in 12 o'clock position, and then you can shut this down. But remember, please do not have it laid down if it is on. So to shut it down, you just lift it and drop it in place. I'm going to leave it up there until it cools. Right, we've opened up the hatch in the floor of the saloon, of the galley rather, and this is the diverter for the holding tanks. So the holding tanks come in from here and they go into the diverter valve. You either want them going straight over the side, or you want them going into the holding tank, and this is the valve that controls it. If you look, there's an arrow there and there's an arrow there. That means the waste is going to go this way, and if you rotate it, the waste will come in the same direction, but it'll be diverted going that way. So those are your two options, there or there. So this is into the holding tank, that's over the side. Simple as that. Now over here you just have the two toilet pickups. That's the raw water, the salt water going into the toilet, goes from here. And this here is just a bilge pump. You just shut that down when you're done. Now before we leave the galley, let's have a look at this switch over here. This switch switches on your water pressure, so that when you open the tap, you'll have pressure. And you can see we have none. So we'll switch it on, and we should have pressure like that. There you go. So simple as that, and you just leave that switched off. You don't want it on in case the tap leaks and then it motors all night. To open the fridge, you need to just pull these back, and they open quite readily. The only thing you need to know about in here is your thermostat. So that's what you would dial up for your temperature control. You have the same sort of catch in the freezer section, which is down here. So you pull that open, and there's your freezer. Right, and here we are in the head, a nice big spacious head. These are your light switches that control the lights, and underneath here as well. So those are your light switches. The toilet is standard Japsco marine head. So what you want to do is that is your wet or dry position. So you want to start putting in the wet bowl position, and then you can pump away here, unlock it and pump. And there you have water coming in and going out at the same time. And then to finish off, you move this lever to the dry bowl position here, and you pump. A little bit more water will come in, but now you can see we're sucking air because we're in the dry bowl position. And when you finish, you twist the handle and it locks. You can't pick it up. So just to go over it again, move this lever into the wet bowl, open the lock, pump at least 10 times as a minimum, and then move to the dry bowl position and empty the whole system. And that's that for the marine. Right, if you do use the shower in here, you'll want to get the water out, and this is often missed by clients, but there, if I switch that on, you can hear the pump begin to work to empty it. So just remember where that is. Right, so in this little area here, where the wet bar and the processor are, you'll find this little cupboard, and this has got your toolkit. It's got your flares and safety. It's got a large fire extinguisher. There are 3 fire extinguishers on board. That's the location of one of them. And of course you've got your first aid kit there as well. These 2 steel pipes are for the barbecue outside, and they get fitted to the transom. When you're ready to barbecue, you'll need those. I'll slide that shut. Right, in each hanging locker, you'll find a couple of buoyancy vests like this, so please make sure that you have enough for all the people on the boat and that they fit you well. So you'll be looking in the hanging locker of each cabin. This little center section of the cockpit is the area in which the generator is housed, and you can see access is very good, and by lifting this you can get immediately to the dipstick there, and you can check the belts and make sure everything's in order. So that's your generator access, and each of the bigger hatches give you access to the transmission. Now in here is the engine room, and that's where all the switch and selector switches are. So having a look at these large switches here, you have a switch for the engine, the starboard engine, the port engine, and the next one is your emergency parallel, which joins them all together. The one on the extreme left is your house batteries, so you'll want that on to have DC power to the boat. And I'd like to point out another large fire extinguisher down there, and of course you've got your two engines, which are readily accessible. I'll show you where the dipstick is. So down here on the port side is the dipstick, so you'll see them on both. Right, your two engines in the engine room. This black cover over here is where you would top up oil on each engine. They're in the same place. The dipstick for the engines are down here, on the left hand side of the engine, so that's where you would look for your oil level. Of course you've got a good fire extinguisher there as well. These are the battery boxes for the domestic supply, and down there are engine start batteries. Just around the corner in here is top up oil, belts, impellers, and the spares that you would need for it. And this here is your generator battery right there. Right, and here we have the cockpit box. Inside here you've got a reel, 600-foot reel in there, which is very handy, and that hooks onto these two eyes down here, and they just drop in there, which makes very easy deployment for the stern reel. You have your hose, you have a barbecue bottle and connection there for your barbecue, which will mount in these two holes here. You will remember I pointed out a locker with the two legs in there, and your barbecue drops into that. You connect the hose from the bottle to the regulator on the barbecue, and then you can cook without worry of the little bottles running out, as they often do. So that's your... So you have all the instruments repeated up here, which makes operating the boat easy from either station. And of course you've got your throttle, your gears here, and your throttle here. Slightly different down below, but the same principle. And over on this side you've got good charging point for anything that you may want to charge up here. There's a cigarette lighter socket for that. And over here there are 3 USB plug points, as you can see in here, which make charging things easy. Thank you so much for watching our short video presentation. I do hope that this helps you on your trip. We sincerely hope that you have a great trip. If there are any questions that you have pertaining to the operation, you've also got the manual you can refer to, and you can call me, 1-250-729-5592. Have a great holiday, and thank you for sailing with the Nanaimo Yacht Charters.